Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Um, I think I know everybody here. I'm Ed Coburn. And with me today is Elizabeth Petersen and David Foster. Elizabeth is the Chief Content Officer at BVR and one of the co-chairs of this year's Summit Planning Committee. The other is Stacey Bailey, who has an unfortunate vocal cord issue that she's dealing with, and so she won't be joining us. We have a chat hello from Stacey. Thanks, Stacey. And so David, who was the chair of last year's Summit Programming Committee and was a member of this year's committee, has stepped in for her. So that's who we're going to be hearing from. We're here to talk about what to expect at our fourth annual renewed summit. And also, before we get going, I want to note that the special early bird discount for this summit is good through this Thursday, May 1st. So if you're watching this and you haven't yet registered, do yourself a favor and register now and save a few bucks. I want to remind people also, if you're a premium member, you probably can attend for free. Premium memberships include some number of free passes, and even if you need more people than that, they're absolutely deeply discounted. So that's everything, and you can be in touch with Lindsay Lee, who's on the call, or just go to renewed.net/summit. That's all the introduction. I'm going to turn it over to you, Elizabeth, to start
Yeah.
things, and tell us what we've got to expect at the summit this year.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. So I think that the one of the most important things that I want to stress here is that this summit this year, like every year, was developed by members and for members. And we pulled together a conference planning committee from a really wonderful cross section of premium members. And I think that what you're going to see is that the agenda really reflects the things that are both keeping us up at night and that we're really excited about. And so I really think that one of the things we did very, very well this year is we had a great finger on the pulse of what's going on in the industry, what we're seeing in terms of trends. And also, I think everybody who's helping us develop this year was very open and honest about the things that we need answers to. And so what we did is we sought out people who could help us navigate some of these challenges. So from a planning perspective, that's one of the things that I want everybody to know about. This was not done in an ivory tower. We really had boots on the ground planning this committee. David, any thoughts about the overall planning?
I agree, and it was great to be on the committee. And I'm sorry I'm standing in for Stacey, whose energy was great. But in fact, since this is the third year in a row I've been on the committee, when we had the initial meeting, I was surprised. Almost entirely new topics came up.
Yes.
Because things are evolving so
Yes.
rapidly. And I think that excitement will be apparent when we get together in Virginia, which I'm looking forward to very soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think oh, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
I know. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I was just going to say, when you mentioned things that keep us up at night, it is really an interesting combination of the things that keep us up in the morning and the thing at night, and the things that get us out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
The exciting
Yes,
things that we can't wait to get our hands into,
that's right.
and what am I going to do?
Yes.
Things that keep us up at night.
And both of you kind of teed up one of the things that I also wanted to talk about, which is the way that we were thinking about AI, and we'll be talking about AI at the conference. And David, to your point, this year's agenda looks pretty different from last year's. And I think one of the things that struck me most is last year when we were talking and thinking about AI, certainly we had members and presenters who were kind of well along their journey of how they were using AI both internally and externally. This year, I think, and I don't mean this to be kind of doom speak, but I think everybody is realizing that if you do not have a plan to be using AI both on your products and internally, the window is closing. And so I think that So much progress has happened in the industry in the past year around how AI is being developed, rolled out. And we've got sessions dedicated specifically to AI, but I think that there's two other things that you're going to find. I think a lot of the presentations that you're seeing, even if they're not explicitly on AI, are going to be talking about how people are using AI as a tool within their business. The other thing that I think is one of the greatest benefits of the renewed experience is just being able to talk to fellow attendees about how they're using AI. So even if they're not on the podium talking about AI, I think that what we're going to learn from the attendees is immeasurable, because we know for a fact that AI is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There's lots of different ways that people can use it, and I know that it's evolving, right? And so to hear both from the really wonderful presenters we have scheduled for our AI session, and then just to hear some of the questions that are going to be asked during that session, and just talking during the networking breaks is going to be one of the more powerful tools to help not only nail down your AI strategy, but evolve it.
Yeah, the number of the use
David and
cases.
Ed, any thoughts? Yeah.
I was just going to say the number of use cases that have come up during our discussions. Though I heard a great one this morning that we'll discuss, which is one of the New York Times journalists who asked ChatGPT to get 100 synonyms to the word anxiety and rank them in order from least to worst so that he could figure out new ways to describe his attitude towards each day covering the news. So that there's an editorial use case right there, throwaway free for this call. But I think, but on the editorial side, on the marketing and sales side, on the product development side, on the delivery to your customers, all of those things we'll be talking about, which might lead us into one of the other categories I'm really excited about, which is we've got like 5 or 6 significant sessions on different views of your relationship with your audience,
Yes.
including using AI as part of that. But so I think that theme of maximizing understanding, listening to, anticipating, we've got some really good stuff on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the themes with when you talk about audience development, I think many of us on the phone are going to remember the days when audience development used to be renting lists to find names, or God forbid, scraping names off of website, even though maybe that may not have been legal. But now audience development more is about a relationship you have, and fostering genuine relationships with your audience, finding new audience members, and then how do you capture that intel and what do you do with it? One session that I'm particularly excited about is Crystal Kopak's session on audience development. I've heard Crystal speak many times. I've worked with her in the past, and she presents some of the most creative but also tactical ways to work with your audience, not only to engage them in your product development process, but to use them as customers. And so I can guarantee that during that session, you're going to walk away with 5 or 6 takeaways that you're going to want to try to implement at your business.
Yeah, I noticed we've also got Bill's on this call, Bill Dugan. He's,
Yeah.
talking mechanics of improving those relationships using both the traditional methods and the new methods, and how to make that more sophisticated. So that's yet another session. And then we have Omita's data on
Oh,
audience
yeah.
development and what audience wants.
Yeah.
So there's that's just a few of the sessions. There are quite a few others.
And
Yeah,
that
that Omega session is every year they do an update, and I scribble furiously during that session. There are so many really wonderful things. They almost have a study that they're presenting, and so it kind of gives us a what is everybody else doing? And you can kind of benchmark yourself. Ed, what were you going to say?
that
High five, same page.
yes, that is always a very highly rated session, and they just see so much data from across such a great spectrum that the data and the insights they gain from that are really spectacular. It is interesting to note in this, thinking about AI, there is an AI session, but much of, as you said, Elizabeth, much of the AI content isn't about AI, it's about marketing
Exactly.
or product development or whatever.
Exactly.
A year ago, AI was still largely separate. 2 years ago,
Yes.
it was entirely
Yeah.
a separate thing. And, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I don't know if we'll have AI sessions. It will just it'd be like having, I can't even think of a good analogy off
Using
the
the,
top.
the internet, right? Like digital
Yeah,
products, right? I
right.
completely agree.
It
And
will
think
disappear, but we're still at that inflection point where for many
right.
organizations but virtually all organizations, there still is some aspect of understanding what AI is doing. And the reality is what AI was doing last year, let alone, I mean, even 6 months ago or 3 months ago is different from what
Sure.
it can do today and what it's going to do in 3 months.
I
So
think Stacey was going to say something.
Yeah.
Stacey, was that
yes,
you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. It's hard to sit here and listen to this conversation and not be able to participate. Yeah, I was just want to comment on the whole AI, especially with audience engagement. I think we are at an inflection point. I like that term because I'm literally sitting here helping my team content plan
Mhm.
AI sessions for our upcoming conference, and we're writing a lot about it obviously as well. And at the same time, as a publisher in the industry trying to figure out how I use this. So I kind of feel like we're sort of building the plane as we fly it.
Yes.
Um, so I'm really excited too. I always fill up what feels like a notebook every time I come to these conferences. But I think really this year more than ever, I uh, I really think there's going to be a lot of insight, especially considering how we can leverage AI, not just for good, but also protect it. I know we've all probably had some
Yes.
experiences. I've gotten
Yes.
a lot of good advice from this group on things to avoid as well as things to leverage. So.
Well, Stacey, that's a really wonderful point too, because I think this is where the power of these networking sessions come in. I think that the sessions are great, but sometimes most of the value I get are from those kind of water cooler conversations when you're just talking with somebody and you're, hey, what are you guys doing around this? Or have you seen that? And, these connections endure after the conference too. And so many of us have almost built lifelong friendships, but the business connections are one of the most powerful things for me as I try to make decisions as a business leader. And so you don't want to underscore or you can't overstate the power of the connections and the community that you make at these events.
I think
And
we've also obviously got the breakout sessions this
oh
year,
yeah.
which I think Stacey, you and Elizabeth have sort of we're literally going to determine the topics based on the feedback we get, the last week going into the conference to make sure we're totally aligned with
Yes.
what's most important and what's urgent. So it's
Hmm.
nice to be going into the conference and have all this flexibility. So if you're listening to this session either now or remotely later on before the conference, be forewarned, you may get dragged in to run a round table.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Um,
volunteering some folks.
but
we
Ed,
did
what were
that.
you gonna say?
We did that last year, and it worked extraordinarily well. I think we got good reviews. So repeating that sort of flexibility.
that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, David, because there's a lot of planned stuff, but then there's the ability to sit and talk with our peers face to face. As much as these Zoom calls are really amazing and wonderful, it's still, you can never get that full experience like sitting down around a table and talking. And so that is a nice thing. One of the things I wanted to mention, because it's always been a sort of a bread and butter topic for this group. I mean, obviously, AI has been sort of the it's not really the bright shiny object, because that kind of suggests lack of substance. It's obviously highly substantive, but it sucked up a lot of the oxygen in the room. But this community runs on sales and marketing.
Yep.
And that AI is going to help us do all of that better. But can you tell us sort of what we have to look forward to for in the sales and marketing realm? I mean, you talked a little bit about audience development, and I know there's lead gen, but I wanted to get your take on that.
So the thing that and this kind of crosses both, well, sales, marketing, and product development. And I know a number of my BVR colleagues on the phone, and they're going to feel this pretty acutely. For me, I think one of the most important themes with sales and marketing is, and I know this is kind of a dirty word, but packaging, pricing, and positioning. I think that we touched upon it a little bit in last year's conference, but this was one of the most common themes, because I think a lot of firms our size and even bigger are trying to find ways to maximize the value that we're giving our members. And last year's theme, I think, was kind of these membership programs, and I think this is an evolution of that. And so we have a number of sessions that are touching on different strategies around packaging and how to press on pricing. Last year Dan Fink did a really fantastic session on pricing models, and I came away with that with things that you can try immediately. And so I think we've brought in a nice diversity of voices and positions on how you can package and price. David, what's your thought on sales and marketing, or even some of this
I
positioning and
agree too.
packaging
I
stuff?
mean, I mentioned Bill's session earlier, so I'll repeat it. But also we've got Helen Coetzee coming
Yes.
on it and we obviously tried to cover as much as possible, both subscription licensing, but also the event side of the business, since many of us straddle that, though we tend to be content focused more than some of the other groups that are out there. There's a big conference almost entirely for events people going on in a couple weeks in Europe. But Helen's starting from the point of view of events people who are trying to expand the subscription model by pricing and packaging. So she's right on that topic, Elizabeth. And again, Tony,
Oh,
Tony
yeah.
giving a data and context for that. And I might also say that one of the themes that came up, and this was driven, I think, a lot by Diane Schwartz, who's one of the keynote speakers, is the fact that the skill sets required now to do a good job of this are more and more complex. And so the talent issues really important, particularly on the sales and marketing side, having good engagement people, having strong licensing skills, the process of negotiating large VIP customer contracts, all these things that many of us are learning to do extraordinarily well, that requires a lot of talent. So I think I recall Diane saying to me at the beginning of the process of planning this year, we need to spend more time on that, because we really are even ever more dependent on the talent of our
Yes.
teams.
Yeah.
So I would say that's kind of
Yeah.
a marketing and sales, obviously content development, all those other things, but
It's all intertwined, though, isn't it?
yeah.
It's hard to think about one without the other. And, David, I know one session that we're really excited about, because we have our fearless CEO on it. But this year we brought in, we're doing a session on recruitment and retention. And to your point, I think that, the people that you have are more important than ever. And it's one of these general kind of soft topics, but really it's at the core of our business success. So how do you find creative ways to attract and retain people, and how do you make your business the place where everybody wants to work and where everybody wants to stay in order to ensure you're getting that talent.
Yeah, that session was the most interesting one to plan, because one of the members of the committee was the head of talent for Access Intelligence. So you're talking big company HR there, and we all agreed nobody wants a session on how to do HR.
Yes, right.
You know, like, and that's really not Renewed's role, but recognizing the huge advantage we have that we're relatively small organizations. So to come, you can go work for Google in the information industry if you want, and you can run a marketing program and nobody will ever know who you are. If you're in one of our organizations within Renewed, one of the premium members, you are critical. Like, you know, your actions are going to have a daily impact on customer relations, on our brands, on all those things day in and day out. So, you know, that I think, and yes, we got Lucretia Lyons is on panel from BVR. So, but we've got a bunch of other good things. So very much agreeing. I'm looking forward to that one.
Ed, what do you think? What are some things that stood out to you when you're thinking about sales and marketing in this year's event?
I mean, I think the audience development stuff is so important. As David mentioned, you know, for events, obviously, we're talking about lead gen and that sort of thing, which I think is great too. But for me personally, the audience development is probably the biggest single challenge I face on the marketing side, and so that's what I'm really excited about. So hey, Ed, we've been talking for a little bit, and the idea wasn't to have this replace the summit, but just kind of give people a sense of what they can expect and why it's absolutely worth their time. I have been I've been going to a meeting of this community every year in June for more years than I can remember. And I absolutely look forward to it every year on a personal level as well as a professional level. And I can't imagine a better place to be than DC in the early spring, late spring, early summer. So anyway, so I want to kind of bring this to a close, but I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that either you were missing, or give you both a shot at final thoughts, and also invite, if anybody on the call has anything pressing they want to add, or obviously Stacey, if you want to chime in. So sort of final last round.
I just wanted to say that it's been great being on Stacey and Elizabeth's program committee this time. So thank you for including me yet again. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm gonna have a fantastic time too. So please.
Always good food too. Yeah, I think that what attendees are going to see is there's a mix of new speakers, some of our kind of favorite returning speakers, all of whom are going to have really powerful stories, but with a lot of focus on the tactical things that we can do to grow our business. So absolutely can't wait for this year's event and to see many of you in person.
Me too. It's been great working with the committee and planning everything. Certainly looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth and David and Stacey, and thanks to everybody who was on the programming committee for the summit. It's a lot of work, but boy, every year when you spend those few days down in the Washington area, you quickly realize how amazingly worthwhile the effort was. So, but thank you for doing that, and I look forward to seeing everybody in Arlington, Virginia, just across the river from Georgetown in just a few weeks.
That's great. Thank you, everybody.